Good morning. Medium morning, actually. I'd like to say it's good. It's not great. Cat's all right. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the button now. It's a bit like pantomime. You know when Buttons comes on and everyone goes, "Hiya, Buttons!" and he says, "I'm not coming on unless you shout hi." Well, it's a bit like that. Please subscribe, because then Bridget can't say that she can't hear us. The Labour Party can't say that they can't hear us, because we're forming this huge big gang making a big noise. And I'm loving your comments, because we seem to be sort of like-minded people in this community. So therefore, we can't be the minority that she talks about, or we can't be that dim, and we are making a noise. They're just choosing to ignore us. But you can't ignore us as we grow bigger, can you? You can see I'm on a bit of a roll this morning because I'm so irritated by the word choice. When people say, well, if you haven't got the VAT, you've got a choice. You could put them in state school. There's a place in state school. Well, okay. Let's break that choice down. There are places in state school, and if I lived in Wales, I'd probably have one, but I don't live in Wales, and that's quite a long commute. So let's just push that aside. Let's look at the facts that are in front of us, which is in my local area, in my age groups, there are no places. We already know this because we've got children being taxied to school outside of catchment area at the local authority's cost, at the taxpayer's cost, because there are no places. So we've done that one. Thanks very much. So that's taken that choice away. There is no state place. What do we do then? Homeschool. Okay, so we take a child out of an education setting that is catering for their needs and we put them in homeschool. How is that catering for their needs? What good is that doing society? It's removing a child from an educational setting, saving a tiny weeny bit of money on the fees, because you obviously have to pay for homeschooling, and it's schooling them at home. Brilliant. Okay, so we've got no state places, and then we're on to homeschooling. And then there's the whole, well, the schools don't have to pass on the full cost. Well, no, 90% of the schools aren't passing on the full cost. They're passing on the smallest amount they possibly can, whilst also coping with employer rates increases, national insurance increases. So we're making teachers redundant. We've got less workforce. We're cutting costs everywhere we can, and we're passing on the minimum amount, and we still can't make ends meet, because a lot of these schools are small independent schools. They're not the massive Etons. I know we like to think they're all the massive Etons. Straw boater. Don't be ridiculous. They're small independent schools. There's very little they can shave off. But it's a really easy argument, isn't it? Well, the schools don't have to pass on the full cost. Yeah, you know nothing. You know absolutely nothing about these schools. Make that comment once you've been and seen their books. Go on. Make that comment when you've come and seen the available spaces in my catchment area. Make that comment when you've actually met the child who's doing really well in the private sector because the state sector failed them, and to put them back in the state sector is an automatic So make those comments when you know something about it. But no, it's not. It's just too easy to go, oh well, you're just posh, you don't want to pay your tax. Oh well, just put them in state and you can use that money to go on holidays. Oh okay, well if it was all that easy, why aren't you in Parliament? Why aren't you the Education Secretary? I'll tell you why, because you've got less of a clue than she does. So let's just stop this banal tit for tat and these really cheap one-liners, because they mean absolutely all. Let's look at the humans. Let's look at the children. Let's look at the teachers. 11 teachers in one prep school have been made redundant. Now, where do you think they're going? Do you think they're going in the state sector? Yes, of course. That's what someone will say. Brilliant. Yes, well, it's good that they're being made redundant from the private sector because they can go and work in the state sector. Would you? Would you work in a sector where your education secretary is telling you to fund your own pay rise from your existing budgets, which has also incidentally got to go and pay for a breakfast club and books and resources? So teachers who are vocational will have to fund themselves by taking money away from the children. Would you do that? Would you work in that sector? Would you? Heck. Do you know what you'd do? You'd go to Saudi, you'd go to Dubai, you'd go to Hong Kong, you'd go to Bangkok, you'd go overseas to Asia, to the Far East, where you would get absolutely respected, paid and looked after. And do you know what? That's what's happening. They're not coming out of the private sector and going into the state sector. The state sector is losing teachers hand over fist. Over 40,000 a year. And Bridget tells you that VAT will give 6,500 back into the industry. Are you having a laugh, Bridget? Are you actually having a laugh? 6,500 teachers, that's less than a quarter of a teacher per child, per school. Less than a quarter. I mean, what are you going to be taught by? The arm? The leg? It just doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. So let's just rewind, stop the crap with choice. I'm not interested. It's just a cheap, crappy argument because you've actually got nothing of merit to say. If you want to engage in the VAT argument, engage in state schools, engage in private schools, engage in education, understand how all three work. And you will find that the argument falls down instantly because state children are being punished just as much as private school children. In this bill, nobody wins.